Fig fam? I am in Pennsylvania at my parents' house, and there are fig trees, central Pennsylvania, zone 6B. In fact, these small trees right here that you see in this yard, some of them are almost 10 years old. This one specifically. This fig tree is from a rooted fig that I got from Joe Morley from figtrees.net from the last year that I lived in Boston area, Massachusetts. Joe Morley introduced a lot of great fig varieties that are in circulation today, including white Triana, black Triana, Fotata, even a Paradiso strain. And this fig, see how small it is? It's 4 feet tall and it is covered with figs. My parents grow these fig trees in containers that they keep in their garage every winter, and then after the last freeze, they bring them out. So this is what I want to talk to you guys about: growing fig trees in cold climates in smaller spaces. They just have this patio. They get 100 figs a year, and they get manageable size so they can bring them in and out of the garage. Check it out. So check it out. It's central Pennsylvania. I know a lot of you grow figs farther north than here. This is zone 6B. But what's really interesting about these container figs, you see right here, here, is they're not 2 years old, they're not 3 years old, they're 7, 8, 9 years old, maybe even 10 years old if I do my math correctly, and they are producing lots of figs. My parents prune them back to the base of the container every year. It produces lots of nice cuttings for propagation that I use from time to time. And these varieties aren't just cold hardy varieties. They're grown in containers, which is great. And this is a hardy Chicago, which is a cold hardy variety. But right here is Violet de Soleil, which I don't know if you can see. This is Violet de Soleil, and they've had this for years. Because you're growing them in containers and you're moving them into a garage, you don't have to exclusively grow cold hardy varieties when you're in a northern climate that gets hot in the summer. They do love their nice summer heat. The later ripening ones will ripen early for you in containers, which is fantastic. And they are growing to the size of the container. All of these varieties, none of them are dwarf varieties, but they're pruned to fit in the container, and they are growing beautifully. Now, they pruned a lot back this year, and what's great about Mount Etna varieties and other cold hardy varieties like Rhone de Bordeaux is they can be cut all the way back. They'll grow new growth and they'll produce figs every year. But there are plenty of figs on this hardy Chicago fig. This Godfather fig is beautiful. My parents love the Godfather movie, so of course they had to have it. And then over here, my white Triana, which I really want to show you guys outside the Violet de Soleil, because Joe Morley was a very pivotal person in helping me get on my journey to figs after I had traveled Europe. And he had all these cool varieties, and I had walked around his greenhouse for ages, and he had it up in the Boston area, which is even colder than here. This is the epitome of growing figs in a small space where fig trees don't have to be big, and yet they can still be productive. And you only have to prune the root ball every other season or so. In fact, my parents probably prune these every 2 seasons, which helps them grow even slower because they're not putting out as much growth, which is fantastic. Look at this. How manageable are these fig trees only to get lots of figs from them? This is a small 3-year-old tree, and it's got 10 figs on it. This hardy Chicago, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably another 20 figs on it. This Godfather, probably another 20 figs or so. And this white Triana, you can tell by its leaves, is covered with figs all over it. Look at this branch. Look at this one. It's up to my waist. It looks beautiful. It's on a patio. You can't beat that. Look at this jankety tripod I have. Just kidding. It's a ladder. It's not even a tripod. I wasn't even planning on filming, but this is too cool, guys. But this fig tree produces lots of figs. They only filled it up half the barrel, which is fantastic for how they want to manage their fig. And it can easily be moved in and out of the house. Pennsylvania is cooler and a little bit drier than where I live in North Carolina. And the slightly cooler temperatures, the slightly lower UV index, you can water less often. And they do get a little less rain in the summer, even though it spritzed recently, where you're not dealing with the same humidity levels. And so figs are actually way more manageable in summertime. The only downside here is that the winter is long and cold, snowy conditions. that fig trees just can't sustain themselves in those cold conditions unless you allow them to die back. In fact, I have neighbors over here that have a hardy Chicago they let die back to the ground every winter, and they prune it and it comes back up. And I'm in fact seeing more and more trees like that. I am in the same vicinity as Bill from Off the Beaten Path Nurseries, who has also been pivotal in my growth as a fig tree grower. And he has trees that are cold hardy in the ground that die back every winter, and they come back up with vigor. And that's the best thing about fig trees. But in reality, if you're growing fig trees in containers, they are so manageable. You don't need dwarf varieties. And the best part is you don't have to have one large fig tree you manage. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 varieties on just a patio. That is what, maybe 400 square feet? They do have a yard, but it's probably 1/16 of an acre. And it's just a beautiful accent to any patio. And I'm so proud of my parents for growing these figs. They put them on their salads. They ripen for them every summer. And the best part about growing later ripening varieties in containers is they ripen sooner for you. Cold hardy varieties can also ripen for you in these containers, but less cold hardy varieties like your Black Madeiras, your Figo Pretos, your Col de Dames, they'll ripen for you earlier in the year because they're in containers and they wake up sooner. My parents keep these figs in an unheated garage, part of their house, and they bring them out after the last frost and they set them out for the year. They wake up slowly, they grow beautifully. This is essentially a bonsai method of growth. This is bonsai, so thinking limiting the amount of available soil for roots to grow while also not letting them get too root bound. And then also limiting their space, kind of like a goldfish in a pond. It'll grow to the size of the pond that it's in for sustainable living. So I really wanted to share this with you guys. I think it's fantastic. I usually recommend a potting every other year. They only do it every 2 years or so, or they amend their soil, and it works out nicely for them here in Pennsylvania. So all my Pennsylvania growers, anybody that's north of zone 7, so 6B and below, this is what you can look forward to if you have a nice hot summer. I wanted to share that with you guys while I'm up here visiting family, showing you a little bit of my roots that I do come from Philadelphia and Amish country, and you can grow figs here. White Triana, Godfather, Hardy Chicago, Violet de Soleil. Now they do have figs that they've lost over the years, like a Black Triana. Not to say that it wasn't prepped, but I think it got a little too dry in the wintertime. So this is the only advice I have. All right, so my only advice for when you're growing fig trees in containers is when they're dormant in the wintertime, yes, they need to be brought inside, and these were brought inside nicely, but my parents have lost a few fig trees because they didn't water them enough during the wintertime. They don't need a lot of water, they just need a little bit to keep that root ball somewhat hydrated. They dry out too much, they're still a living plant, so despite it being dormant, they can die from that. I was actually recommended by Joe Morley is that you could actually take some snowpack and you could put it around the base of the fig tree while it's in your garage or shed and let that snowpack melt and water the soil that way. Or you can just do a light watering to leave some sort of moisture in there for the fig tree to hold on to while it makes it through the winter in a dark, dry place like a shed or a garage. Other than that, you can grow any type of fig variety because they'll ripen sooner for you in containers. And as long as you have a hot summer like we do here on the East Coast, even up into New England, is that you can get ripe figs with that nice heat. If you're on the West Coast, up in the Pacific Northwest, you may want to look at your San Pedro varieties like Desert King to help ripen for you. White Genoa and Paradiso or a Dalmati fig will also ripen in less warm conditions as well. Now you can grow figs as far north as New England. When I lived in the Boston area where I bought these fig trees from Joe Morley, I knew families that had fig trees that they'd wrap in the wintertime. I know fig trees that they would keep in containers on wheels and they'd wheel in and out of sheds. A lot of Portuguese communities, Azore communities, Italian communities, many other communities, all up in the melting pot of these major cities. Lots of them had fig trees in containers. And so it's really refreshing to know here on the East Coast, if you're curious about growing fig trees in smaller spaces and in cooler climates, You can do it. You can grow fig trees just about everywhere and look at the results. You can manage their size and you can still grow large figs. These white Triana figs will grow nice and big for you. 4-bite figs is what I'm talking about, guys. If this is helpful for you, if you're curious about growing figs in smaller spaces and in colder climates like zone 6 and below, follow for more tips. Subscribe, reach out with questions. I'm here to help you grow figs, guys. This is a 10-year-old fig tree. That's pretty unbelievable. Cheers, fig fam.